This is the BigFooty Blues podcast.
Yes, it's that time of the week again. Time for the BigFooty Blues podcast, episode squazillion for the year, or to those that can't count that high, it's the week leading up to round 19. I'm ODN and I'm joined by the usual lineup of suspects. He's no barista, but he has come up with a freshly ground plan to offer free coffees back at his place for the ladies. It is only for the ladies, right, HBF?
Jeez. Yes.
Seemingly impervious to the lure of a frothy brew, she instead spent her week pondering the unresolved tensions between Batman and Catwoman across all the big issues, Mebby?
I'm so embarrassed. Hi, guys.
He received an education this week when he learned that schoonering was the practice of having a beer while wearing somebody else's pants, or something like that anyway. So did you take part, Happy Dude?
I haven't met a weird person from north of the border yet to share that experience with.
Oh, dear. Jeremiah's with the late withdrawal tonight, which is probably a good thing since he has admitted to drinking feral Fanta pants. I'm not sure why he couldn't have just done a mick and yelled at them at half time, but each to their own.
I'm going to stop writing on the board because you see everything.
We're omnipresent. Look, let's just start with a little bit of news, people. We have had a bit of news since we last spoke. Adelaide's much maligned CEO, Stephen Trigg, has signed in to be Carlton's next CEO. The board's lit up across BigFooty, and there were some strong opinions expressed. So now that the dust has settled, where does the panel sit on this appointment?
I had my tantrum already, so lucky for you guys, you don't have to listen to me do it now. I think it's a very strange decision. I honestly don't know why, when we've got such a huge reputation still of cheating, that we would bring someone in who, obviously also has a personal reputation for it. But, I've had my tantrum and I've said my piece, and so I'm willing to now judge him on his actions and what he can actually do for the club, and hopefully he takes us in the right direction.
Well, apparently we scoured the world, looking for the best possible candidates. What a coincidence that he was just over in South Australia waiting for a new job to bring him over to Victoria. From the outside looking in, I don't think his record is the best going around, but now that we've got him, I'm going to have to give him the time to see if he can prove himself, and, do a good job with the club, but I'm not the most impressed person around.
Look, I must say I was probably a bit like Mebby to start with. I was quite shocked that we'd appointed him, but I think knowing his background that he will now be as squeaky clean as what we've been since we had those salary cap penalties back in the early 2000s. So I think if they've got him on his football nous, then I'm happy to have him there. There's just not a chance that he's going to break any rules at all whilst he's at Carlton. So, look, if he was the best person for the job, then, look, I'm happy that the club would have gone through their due diligence and really did try and get the best person for the job. So, yeah, look, I'm happy at this stage.
I was really worried about the PR hit when it was first announced, the whole cheating club signs cheating CEO, and you're thinking, what on earth are we thinking? We just don't need that sort of media. But I've noticed that the media has been fairly split, and there's actually been a fair bit of encouragement from certain journalists about the appointment. So it wasn't probably as severe as I thought it would be. And it seems to be relevant. I'm not sure why, but that he gets along quite well with Gillum McLaughlin. So being a friend of the AFL, I don't know if that's Carlton turning over a new leaf. And so, what can you do? We've signed the contract now. We don't know really what he's done at Adelaide. We've heard a lot from Adelaide supporters, but we needed a CEO. We've looked under every rock, and Triggs what crawled out. So we've got to go with it.
I don't know if that's a very strong endorsement.
It's not.
It's
It's
the only
not.
thing that crawled out from under the rock.
Well, exactly, but that's what they said. They looked under they left no stone unturned, is what they said. So, it's, it is what it is, and he's going to be judged on what he does while he's getting paid by the Carlton Football Club. So,
I think Mark Robinson really summed it up well on SEN last week. He said that people are entitled to second chances, and he actually sort of just put out a rhetorical question in saying that, like, how many of us would not be in the position we're in right now had we not had a second chance? And
Did you realise he's pushing an agenda there?
yeah.
Well, maybe he is, but people are
Definitely.
Did you read the end of that article? the article?
I'm happy to judge him on his time at Adelaide, and look, you get mixed reviews, but look, as it sits right now, I'm happy enough that he's there, and I think we just need to give him a chance and just see what comes of it.
Yep, good one. Get the membership figures up, get the sponsorship dollars coming in, and make the club a little bit more professional, and none of us will have a bad word to say.
Is anyone else concerned by the figures that the Wookiee posted, though, showing a steady decline in membership numbers and revenue for Adelaide?
I am. That's what I meant by from the outside looking in. I don't know exactly on all the decision-making process over in Adelaide, and I really only have the only information I have to go off is Wookiee's numbers, really. So that's my main concern. But
could that have been more? Look, I haven't seen those numbers, but could that have been because of the salary cap penalties and a small group of supporters have jumped out off the club until maybe Trigg was gone? Maybe their membership numbers will pick up next year.
It could have been because of a fair few different reasons, which is, well, without being involved, we won't really know the full story. So, now that he's with us, I'm happy we'll sort of forced to give him his chance to prove himself and see if he's got good ideas for the club and can bring us in the right direction. But, I wasn't the most, don't colour me impressed.
Yeah, look, as I said, I'm more than willing to give him a go, and let's maybe judge him in 12 months or 2 years' time, see if he's taken the club forward from now.
Yes, sir.
And let's remember, this is also a big test for the new president. This is the first major decision that he's made. Yep. And we still don't know a lot about Emlo, and
I forgot about the log.
So yeah, exactly. So he's going to be judged on how this appointment turns out as well. So. Anyway, moving right along, it's time for a little bit of trade talk. So, on the boards during the week, there's a bit of a rumour that seems to have really taken off. It's probably been festering for a couple of weeks, but some seemingly connected posters have talked about Carlton chasing one of GWS's tall forwards. And it came out, a week or two ago, that it was Boyd that we were chasing. And I've seen something more today suggesting it might actually be Patton now, so it's a bit of a having a bob each way probably. But the talk is about Carlton's first pick and a player. Has anybody given any thought to that trade? Do we think there's any merit in it, and who would we possibly offer up?
If there's merit in it, I reckon the sort of player they'd be interested in would be a Walker type player that's a bit more senior and plays off the back line, and has that bit of run about him. Obviously, when he's not carrying an injury, we've seen him do it quite well last year. I think he came second in the best and fairest. Yeah, they'd be interested in someone of that sort of quality, senior, because they need older heads. I think they'd probably even be asking for Yaron. But there's no way, I'd be very disappointed if we gave up Yaron.
Well, the poster who's been pushing this rumour through a source He claimed, I'm pretty sure he claimed that it wasn't Walker and it wasn't Yaron. And that some posters, sort of indicated some posters would be okay with the trade, some wouldn't. So I'm trying to think about players that are sort of, maybe maligned or,
A bit polarising.
Yeah, look, I don't know about polarising, but ones that, maybe been out of the action. I straight away come back to Matty Cruiser again and stuff like that, since GWS wanted him in the first place. But I'm not saying that's who it is, but, these rumours do tend to make you, speculate a bit, and he's already turned down GWS once, but if that money was on offer again.
Cruiser, I'm going to be very upset.
Who would the board sponsor then? Because first we sponsor Kennedy and then he gets traded. We'd have to start sponsoring players we don't want to keep.
BigFooty Blues, the kiss of death. Anyway. We did used to, back before, this sponsorship has a history at another website, and back in the old days it was actually Carl Norman, so that didn't end up too well either.
Oh, jeez Louise. Stop sponsoring people.
Why don't you just sponsor Kane Ackland while you're at this?
I think we tried, didn't we?
No, didn't have a bar with that one. The other chat during the week has been about Sean Higgins. Is he a restricted free agent? So you'd have to actually offer him some decent coin to keep him away, get him off the bullies.
I'm actually not sure if he's restricted or unrestricted.
Yeah, I think he might be unrestricted. I'm not totally sure on that.
Look, I do see the merit in getting him, assuming he can get his body right. Look, he uses the footy really well, so whether we could find a spot in the team for him. I've been pretty big this year on getting players in that can kick the footy. I'm sick of seeing our players just turn the ball over way too many times for my likings. And look, Higgins does bring kicking skills to the table. So look, if his body's right and we do a medical on him and it doesn't cost us too much, then welcome aboard, Sean Higgins.
Well, given those injury woes though, HBF, what's your cap on how much you'd pay him?
Look, I don't think he'd go much over the average wage. So, look, I wouldn't pay him any more than $350. I wouldn't have thought. Having said that, I will say that it will depend on what happens at the end of the year, particularly with Judd and Waite, and just how much money we do have to spend.
Yeah.
If these two decide not to go on, then we're going to have a bit of a war chest. So I think maybe our priorities, we could probably go elsewhere for a different sort of player. But look, I'm not opposed to Higgins, but not to overpay him.
Yeah. Just having a quick look at the draft. I note that the BigFooty Phantom Draft trial run has started, and HBF, you're representing Carlton in that draft.
Yes, I am.
And I noted that you selected Durden at 5. Now, obviously, that doesn't take into account any compensation picks that Melbourne might get if Frawley leaves and so forth. And it doesn't. It's sort of just guessing at our current position. But I'm thinking we could end up with anywhere between maybe pick 6 or 7, depending on those compensation picks. So, if the rumours, I just want to sort of, who would you be looking at 6 or 7? But also, if the rumours prove correct and we do snap up a big gun forward such as a Boyd or Patton and therefore give up our first pick, who would you be thinking we'd look at around pick 25ish?
Well, look, just with the Phantom draft, I was actually a little bit surprised that Durden dropped to 5. I was trying to sort of second guess what the posters ahead of me were going to do, and the one that I thought would fall through to me was going to be Brayshaw, but he was actually gone before my pick. So Durden was the one left, and as I've written on the drafts and trading thread, that you just can't say no to a legitimate key position player that can play at both ends. He did have a quiet-ish championships, but you just saw glimpses of him of what he can do. So look, I snapped him up very, very quickly. I didn't really think about it too much. if we do end up with pick 6 or 7 in the actual draft, I think I'm on record as saying I'm a really big fan of Jaden Laverde from the Western Jets. He just ticks so many boxes for me. 186, 187 centimetre. Essentially utility. He can pretty much play anywhere. I've seen him play back. I've seen him play through the midfield, and I've seen him play forward. I finally got to watch the last 3 quarters of the Vic Metro South Australia game from Simmons a few weeks ago, and his second, third, and fourth quarters were sublime. I think if he was wearing a Carlton jumper next year, I don't think there'd be an unhappy Carlton supporter. The other player I'm quite impressed with is Lockie Weller from Queensland. He's one of probably the better mids of the draft pool this year. Not as tall. He's about 181 centimetre, but he's just a really smooth mover. He doesn't really do a lot wrong. The only maybe knock on him is that he's probably just a pure midfielder. I haven't really seen him play anywhere else, although I have only seen him play a couple of times. So happy to be sort of proven wrong on that. The other one I am keen on, but I haven't seen him play at all, is Jake Lever, and I can only really go by what sort of people are talking about with him. To answer your third point, what would I do in the second round? I think it would really depend on what falls through. There are so many players you could be keen on. I really like Jared Garlett from WA. Just a really, really elite speed, uses the ball okay, but I'm sure we could work on that. And even the guy you spotted a couple of weeks ago, ODN, Lucas Webb from Country.
That's a little bit high, isn't it?
Not for me, no. I really, really impressed with his game. There was a passage of play that he weaved through a bit of traffic and slotted it from 50, and the person I immediately thought of was Pendlebury. He just moves like Pendlebury so much. So I think he's a little bit underrated on BigFooty. So if he's there in the 20s, I wouldn't be too disheartened if we grabbed him. Perhaps he needs to work on his consistency a little bit, but from what I saw, I think he could be a very, very good player at AFL level. Again, that big-bodied mid 186 left footer just uses the ball really well. So that's sort of what I'm thinking at the moment, but that could change between now and November.
Well, thanks for that. That's a pretty decent rundown. So still a fair bit to look forward to.
Yep.
And no doubt we'll be talking more about it as the season progresses and after Carlton makes its exit for 2014. So I think we'll move on and try a little bit of list it, love it, or leave it.
List it, love it, or leave it.
So this week in List It, Love It, or Leave It, I think we did number 20, Holman, last week. This week we're doing 23 through to 30, since we've got a few gaps in our numbering this year. We're going to start with Lockie Henderson. So what do people think? List it, love it, or leave it?
Love, love, love. Love him.
Gotta love it.
Love him.
Yeah, it's pretty unanimous across the board, really, isn't it?
You don't really have to say too much, do you? Just love him forever.
Yeah.
He's found a little bit of form of late. We're a little bit worried about him, and he seems to, have his confidence back a bit. And 6 goals in his last game is no mean feat.
Was he injured through the season? I mean, there was some reports out that he was carrying an injury. So
certainly looks like he has been.
I had somebody came out and said, I think it came from the club saying he hasn't been injured, confirming that Walker had been, which is the reason for his form drop off, but Henderson hasn't been. So I can't remember what sort of a pre-season he had. I think it was interrupted. I think most of our team was interrupted, but
he had
he had hip surgery, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a tendon in his leg or something that he needed And that was late in the pre-season, and that always isn't good when you can't sort of just round out your pre-season. So,
Yep.
Look, I thought he started the season really well, dropped off a bit, and has come back really well. I mean, his game against North Melbourne was pretty special. So, just a no-brainer for me. Lock him away for life.
Yeah. We don't have too many players that can go forward and back, so you don't burn those sort of players. So he's wherever we might pick up at all in this year's draft or trade week, Henderson can fill in a spot down the opposite end for a long time to come. So next up, 26, Andrew McInnes.
Look, seen him at VFL level a couple of times, and just not quite sure where he's at. He has a good game at VFL level and then doesn't have a good game at VFL level. So I'm just wondering whether we might sort of list him and just see if we get any bites for him. I think maybe his boy Doherty's gone past him, and I'm just not sure where he fits. And Simon White's probably gone past him as well. So obviously we need backup for those two, but just not sure where he's at in his footballing career. So.
He hasn't been the same since his knee, I don't think.
I agree. Yeah.
Definitely. And I saw him in the VFL, not this weekend because he had a bye, but the one before. And, he's alright, but he's not exactly beating down the door to get a gig. And so I completely agree with you, HBF. I think there's others that have surpassed him, unfortunately, because I like him. But, I just don't necessarily think that the side would be better to have him in it.
Yeah. Maybe if we were offered something, in the third round, we'd potentially look at it.
I think so. Yeah. Look, I mean, the draft probably slips away a bit after about 25 to 30 this year.
All right. My 27, Dennis Armfield.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a bit of a interesting, difficult one, isn't it? He's a good team man, Army.
Look, again, like sort of what Mebby and I were just saying with McInnes. Like I've seen him a couple of times at VFL level, and you'd think with a senior player, he really should be sort of kicking the door down, but he's just not. Sometimes he just looks a little disinterested, which is unusual for Armfield because he's a bit like a bull at a gate, but. I'm not sure what you think, maybe, but I don't know, he just doesn't look like...
Well, he has flashes, doesn't he? Last week in the VFL again, he sort of had moments where he, made an impact and forced his way in, but then other moments where it's like, oh, crap, I forgot Armfield was playing, even though he's got the bloody worst Pat Rafter hairdo at the moment. It's disgusting, but it's worse than Michael Hurley's. But... I don't know with him, it's he's inconsistent for me, and I used to really, he used to be one of my ultimate faves, and every week I was like, Armfield must play, and this year he's really dropped off the radar for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He doesn't have any trade value. But I don't know, unless we really need the list spot, I think he can be a handy foot soldier to come in for those few games a year if we have a few injuries.
Is he contracted?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Because with the amount of people that we're looking to move on potentially at the end of the year as well, where are we going to get replacements for them all?
Yeah,
so it couldn't hurt to just keep him around for another year if we need to.
That's exactly the point I was about to make is with the amount of people that we've already lost, and if we're going to move on more people, then there's no point throwing him out just because and then trying to replace him with a speculative pick later on in the draft or just trying to pull someone else in. So I reckon, holding on to him for another year and see how he goes next year, and he'll probably be one to, if there's no improvement and he's just doing exactly what he did this year and even last year again, at the end of next season, he'll be one to be moved on.
Yeah,
I think I think what he brings is he certainly brings speed, and I think the other thing he brings is the fact that he can lock down on an opposition, either small half forward or midfielder. But Curno's sort of playing that role now, and we ran into trouble last year when we actually played too many run with players. So look, if a club out there is looking for some speed and a player that can lock down on someone, then perhaps we will ship him off. But look, I agree with the rest of you guys. I think let's not cut him just for cutting's sake. I think he's, again, probably like McGuinness. I think he's probably line ball, but he could certainly be a good depth player for next year. And I'm really not sure what his contract status is off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay, number 28, Tommy Bell.
I like Bell.
Yeah,
I really do. I don't see why we would get rid of him.
Yeah, he's one that as he gets more games, I reckon he's just going to get better. The few times I've seen him play at VFL level, he does quite well, and he seems to kick goals regularly as well, taking nice marks and stuff too, which is good. I don't really see him doing that as often at AFL level. That Shepherd against St Kilda, he likes doing the team thing as well. He's the sort of player we need around the club, hard at the ball, tackling, shepherding, good size, with his body, nice and solid. The more games he gets, the better he gets, I feel. He won't be a superstar, but I reckon we keep him.
What I'd like to do with him during the summer is just handcuff him to Gibber and just say, you just learn as much about kicking as you can in this few months, because he gets the ball enough, but he just tortures it a bit too much for my liking. And if he could just improve his kicking a bit more, he'd raise his game to a completely new level. So look, I'm with you guys. I'd certainly keep him. If he could just work on his kicking, he'd be a really, really good player.
Well, that and his awareness, because he's a little bit slower than he thinks he is, and he's not really aware when people are coming at him, when the tackler's coming at him. So
he needs to play within his limitations.
Yeah.
And there's some players who've had very successful careers doing that. Like Nick Maxwell, I think, is an example of someone who knew how to play within his limitations, and he always played to his strengths. And I know everyone makes fun of him, but I think he had a pretty good career for what he was capable of. And if Bell stops trying to sprint away from people and hold onto the ball for a long period of time, I think he'll improve out of sight. But at the same time, they need to communicate with him as well and let him know.
Yeah, but absolutely.
I don't think he should try and stamp that out of his game completely. I mean, you think back to last year where he ran off and kicked that really long goal against Port that helped us get to ninth last year, which then got us into the finals. So I think as you guys were saying, I think he needs to work on his awareness to sort of pick his situations when to run off and then pick his situations when to dish off as well. So.
Yep, but for now, we'll keep. Look, if somebody was to offer up a second rounder, I'd be looking at it though.
That'd be the dream scenario, I think. But it'd be nice. But
we can't give away everyone.
Well, look, it depends. Especially if we trade away our first rounder, we're going to have to give up somebody to sort of get back into the draft a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, next up, number 30, Jared Waite.
Jeez, what did you say?
I don't even know what to say.
I do. I love Waitey. I absolutely love him. I think he cops a bad rap. Yes, he has been inconsistent, but his best is some of the most brilliant football I've ever seen anybody play. And that's probably why we beat up on him so much, because he is capable of so much more. But why can't we just enjoy it when he does turn it on? And he gets a reputation for getting himself suspended. Nothing's that major. He's not really a dirty player. And I don't even hold that against him. I think when he plays like he did against North Melbourne, I'd go a long way just to watch 3 games of football like that from that guy, and 19 average games. Well, sorry, it's Jared Waite, and 10 average games and 9 out injured. But look, he offers so much, and he's such a barometer when he's up and going, and that's what I watch football for, players like Jared Waite.
Yeah. Look, I completely get what you're saying, Odie. I mean, that game last year where he kicked 7 against Essendon, he was just unstoppable, and he was a bit like that on Friday night as well. Look, I think what I would do with Wadey is give him a 1-year deal at the end of the year, and then reassess in 12 months. I think we are a better football team when he plays, and I think it would also just give Casbolt and probably to a lesser extent Henderson another year with him at the club. That's what I would do, and I would certainly. I mean, look, he's been paid very well by our footy club whilst he's been injured and suspended. So I think it might be time for him to perhaps give something back to the club and take a bit of a haircut, have a 1-year deal, and then we'll reassess in 12 months.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, HBF, but I've had this bad feeling for a little while that he's going to actually call it quits at the end of the season. I think the decision might be made for us.
Call it quits maybe, but there's some clubs apparently offering him a contract, and I don't want to see Waite play against Carlton ever.
I don't think he would. He's got to be too much of a Carlton man for that, honestly. Like,
I reckon he'll call it quits before he goes somewhere else. If he's thinking about calling it quits and someone else is offering him, unless they offer him a lot of money, I reckon he'll turn him down and just, hang him up.
Well, I mean, there's speculation that Fremantle are looking at him, and I'm just wondering whether he would take his family to Western Australia, at the end of his career to perhaps eke out another 12 months of footy.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as a player who's out seeking glory and premierships and stuff like that. He just wants to play. So I don't think he would go over there either. But he might stay in Melbourne and go to a lower club if it meant he can get a couple of years still playing.
Jeez, I hope he doesn't do that.
No. I don't know. I mean, the way he was jumping around against North Melbourne, he's still got a fair bit left in the body.
Well, and I'd rather give him 2 years than have him go somewhere else.
But I mean,
I couldn't stomach it.
But he's been on a 3-year contract maybe, and he's missed so much footy. I mean, do we want to risk giving him another 2-year deal at, how old is he, 30, 31 or something?
31.
31, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and it's not even logical to me, but that I get emotional about football, whereas you guys are a lot more pragmatic than I am, and I just can't stomach the thought of Jared Waite, with that surname, being Jared Waite running around against Carlton. I just don't think I can hack it.
Yeah.
Look, me neither. I mean, I'd hate to see him in anything other than navy blue, but look,
yeah,
I'd be quite prepared to give him a 1-year contract at the end of the year, and just, I mean, look, if it's good enough for Chris Judd to have rolling 1-year deals, then it's good enough for Waite to have rolling 1-year deals as well. As far as
give him a 1-year deal and with an option for a second if he meets certain criteria. So and that will include games played. So if he's injured and have it at a lower wage, but offer incentives for goals, goals and marks or something like that. Write some sort of performance clause into the contract. Yeah, give him performance. So you want certain KPIs performance wise, and you want a certain amount of games played to guarantee that second year.
I think that seems to be a bit of the in thing at the moment. I mean, there's quite a number of players that have that those sort of clauses in their contract, whereas if they play a number of games, it triggers the second year. I know, Jake King's retired today, but I mean, he had a clause in his contract for that. And doesn't Brad Saul from Hawthorn have the same thing, that he's got to meet a certain criteria to get a contract next year? So, maybe.
Yep. I'd go there. All right, coming up next, it's the pre-game pep talk.
Pre-game pep talk.
Thursday night at Patterson Stadium, Carlton sitting in 13th place with 6 wins, 11 losses, take on Fremantle sitting in 4th place with 12 wins and 5 losses. Carlton are coming off a rare 4-quarter performance and win against North Melbourne, while Fremantle win into their bye weekend after a shellacking at the hands of bottom side St Kilda. an aberration for the Dockers, folks, or do they have problems that Carlton may be able to exploit?
Well, I'm hoping that they've got problems that we can exploit. That loss to St Kilda that gobsmacked me. I had Fremantle grand final pegged, actually, and that's just completely thrown me because you don't have, legitimate contenders dropping games in that sort of fashion. I think when I saw that scoreline against St Kilda, I thought there goes our chance of beating them. They're not going to, in front of their home crowd, they're not going to have another lapse like that anytime soon. Like last year where they just systematically beat us in every area, I think we might see something very similar to that again this week. They're just such a well-drilled side, like any Ross Lyons side is. The quality of their midfield is right up there. They're just such a good side. We play Subiaco pretty well, so I'm hoping for the upset. I'm hoping we can run through their well, for lack of a better word, zones and whatnot, and have a brilliant performance from Waite and Henderson again up forward, because I think their key position players will be key to us kicking a winning score on Thursday night.
I think what St Kilda showed is if you really take on Fremantle and just run the ball as sort of as chaotic as you can actually get through their zone. So I think guys like Garron and maybe Tui and Simpson and that will, we need to just get the ball in their hands and tell them to sort of just run and take them on. Look, I'm not expecting us to beat Freo over there. I think they'll be really keen to atone for their performance against St Kilda and in front of their home crowd. But look, I don't think it'll be a pasting either. So look, as long as we play 4 quarters and give a good account of ourselves, I'll be happy either way.
Yeah. Look, in our last 5 meetings, we've won 2 against Fremantle. And those 2 were at Subiaco. So we do reasonably well against them. And I note that we've been, in those 5 games, we were averaging 87 points, where their average this year against is 68. So we do tend to, I think only once have they kept us in the 60s in those last 5 games. So we do tend to score higher against Fremantle than what they average against them from other sides. So that shows we do match up fairly well. So
we can win, you guys. Keep the faith. Come on.
No doubt we can win. And look, and there's plenty of Blues support over there. And the WA Blues represent strongly over there. And for some reason we just tend to like the ground, and we play well against both the WA sides. So
I've got my fingers crossed that Lucas comes in, because he actually, some anti-Lucas people don't think he did well in the VFL, but I thought he was probably our best Carlton listed player last week. So I would like to see him have a game, and that's not because that way he'll be playing in WA and they can see what he's made of and potentially take him off our hands. I would actually like to see Lucas get a game, but apart from him, I can't see anybody. Well, I mean, Everett obviously is out.
Yeah, Everett out.
Changes?
Robinson's suspended again.
Yeah.
And it's yet to remain to be seen whether we want to risk Menzel or not. Because he's had his issues as well. But
I'd say not risk him.
It's not a silly suggestion at all. Lucas is a WA boy, and Subiaco is a longer ground. So somebody who's going to run between those 50-metre arcs is quite valuable, and that's Lucas's go. So it's not silly. I'm not sure who else might come in. I know Cripps has been doing fairly well in the VFL since he's been back. Well, I think he's only had 1 game back, hasn't he? They must have had a bye this weekend.
No, 2. He played North Ballarat, and then he played last week at...
Oh, that's right. I missed that game.
So, but then, Cripps isn't exactly quick, but he is a WA boy too, so it might be a little reward for him to get over and see his family.
So sad Bucks got injured again.
Yeah. Freo are going to welcome back Sandilands, Ballantyne and Hill, so that's not ideal for us.
Awesome. No. Who's going to, do you reckon it'll be Warnock or Wood? Because Warnock didn't exactly turn me on when he played last week. Like, he was not very exciting.
Yeah, and with Sandilands rucking, you'd almost have to concede, most of the hit-outs to Sandylands, and Wood outperformed Warnock around the ground. I think Warnock's whole year in one game. So if you're going to lose the hit-outs anyway, you may as well go with the better around the ground player.
Can you say Sandylands again?
I agree.
Sandylands.
Are you?
Sorry.
Maybe does that mean you're turned on by Wood?
Oh, Christ.
I resisted that because I said I wasn't going to, and then
I'm totally innocent. You guys are just taking me entirely the wrong way.
Well, it's funny because in the game day thread last week, I didn't realise what I was saying, and I was on my phone, so I didn't know how to edit it. But I put "far out, I'm loving Wood tonight," and then I'm like, oh no! I couldn't work out how to get rid of it, so it's there. And of all people to pick up on it was bloody Shandog. So thanks, mate.
Bloody Shandog.
Bloody Shan Poodle.
How are you, Shandog? You resting up there, mate? You know? You just take it easy, bud. We'll see you next week. Look, you can't bring in Warnock simply because he's tall. I mean, Sandilands is tall, surely. We're just gonna have to hope Wood can negate him somewhat, and our mids can read Sandilands. That's probably all we can do.
Look, I agree with maybe. I think Lucas did enough last week to bring him back in, and I think he's actually perfect to play as a sub next week. Thursday night. Just he'll be able to come on and actually run and actually use his speed late in the game to advantage. Everyone knows I've got a big man crush on Cripps, so he should.
Yeah, you guys are going to get married.
I think we are. Yeah, so. I think,
will you make him a coffee?
I will make an exception for Patrick. I will make him a coffee. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I think Cripps should come in as well for Robinson and who's the other one? Everett. So whether we risk Menzel or not, I'm not sure. But I think based on VFL, I think Lucas and Cripps did enough last week to warrant selection.
Very good. So, tips, people.
Carlton by 10 points.
Carlton by 4 points.
Freo by 24.
Carlton by 10. Go, Blues.
Carlton by 33.
You made me so happy that my heart actually exploded.
All right, so Bluebell will be back next week to replace Mebby.
Yeah, I'm dead now. You killed me with joy.
I actually think this week is the last game for us for the year, where I'm convinced that we're not going to win. I think we can win every other game for the rest of the year.
Look,
this is just the last one where I'm feeling a bit pessimistic about, but I reckon we could beat all the other teams.
The pressure's off now, just throw caution to the wind. So, anyway, with that thought, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us once again, HBF.
No worries, it's been fun.
Thank you, Happy Dude.
Yeah, been fun too.
And we'll talk to you next week, maybe.
Thanks, guys, if I'm still alive.
Well, if you can be revived.
Yeah, I might be dead from excitement, but go Blues.
All right. See you all next week. Go Carlton.
Shutting my eyes sober and waking them up dead. Ain't have a suspect. She'd say she's justified, 'cause she discovered how her lover